Marcy. The Sea Org took my childhood away. I was there from 10 to 20 years old. And at one point it even took my will to live, along with my self-esteem, self-worth, and dreams. Sadly, they also took my belief that I could actually have dreams and reach them one day. So I lived on a hamster wheel for a very long time, until last year. I'm in my 40s now. Happily, I now believe that I do deserve good things, but the scars are still there. I know that if it hadn't been for all the psychological damage, I would have had a different, much better life right now. I can't help but to blame them. So I guess my two questions are, how can I forgive and forget and move on without feeling any more resentment towards the church? And why hasn't Scientology paid yet for what it has done to so many people's lives? Wow, I thank you very much for this question, and I definitely feel, I understand how that feels. When I came out of Scientology and first went down the rabbit hole of finding out all about it on the internet, I was extremely upset. I don't know that there's ever been a period in my life where I have been more angry, more frustrated, more wanting to lash out about having been taken advantage of, about having wasted all those years of my life, about you can't get that back. What do you do? And I channeled that energy into speaking out against it. At first anonymously, I didn't use my real name, but in my anger and upset, and because I kind of wasn't thinking as closely about the situation as I should have been, or carefully rather, about the situation as I should have been at the time, I gave away too much in my anxiousness to hurt the church. I said too much about myself, and so the church figured out who I was, even though I was speaking out anonymously. Now, at this point, I don't regret that, because I believe that trying to go under the radar and speak out is a losing proposition. In the eventuality that because you are trying to hide something from the church, and the second they find out about it and they find out who you really are, now they have something on you. So instead, the next year after I was declared, I decided to start speaking out under my own name. And that, I'm only talking about this because that has been a wonderful form of catharsis for me, is to speak out. Now, whether you do it publicly or not, and it never really has been a safer time to do it than now, the chances of the church, backlash against you are less now than they ever have been, which is no guarantee, of course, of anything, but it's just how things are now. And there are more outlets for that. I mean, even Leah's show is asking for people's stories and asking for people to reach out. But regardless, that has been a great form of catharsis for me, and it's allowed me to unload a lot. Now, you don't have to do it publicly. You could speak out anonymously. You don't even have to speak out in a public forum. Just write stuff down. I've talked about how that alone, just getting it out of your head and onto paper or onto a computer or talking to other people about it it really is helpful. It really is, more so than trying to keep it all contained and bottled in, There's also, of course, there's professional counseling that a person can get. And if you hook up with a counselor, whether it's a cult recovery therapist or a psychologist or family therapist or something like that, as long as they understand or can be made to understand the situation that you're coming from, that can be very, very beneficial. It really sucks when you have a counselor that you have to explain everything to because they're not up to speed. So I wouldn't even bother with somebody like that. But I've done podcasts and interviews with Rachel Bernstein in Los Angeles. That kind of person, somebody who has a background in it. Wonderful, wonderful people, and they do a lot of good in helping to overcome a lot of the resentment and anger and that builds up inside. Because believe me, I understand that. I haven't gotten professional counseling myself, but I recommend it for people because I think it can be helpful. My counseling has been this channel, has been my friends, my family, has been downloading a lot, talking to people who understand the situation, and that's the only way I know of that's worked for me. I know it's worked for some other people, to, to sort of unload all of that burden, right? Now, all that being said, I do want to stress something, though. I have not forgived and forgotten. I am still very upset with what Scientology did to me specifically and to my life. I've moved on from that time period. I've moved on from Scientology. My life is now a whole different thing. But I lost a lot. Not just all those years of time in the Sea Org and all that wasted potential, but friends, my fiance at the time, when I left back in 2013. That whole family, that whole situation, all gone, just like that, right? And now forgiveness is a rough thing, okay? I think it's a good thing if you can accomplish it, if you can get there, and but for when it's so personal to you, it can be hard. There are only a couple people still in the Church of Scientology who I find myself unable to understand or forgive for what they did. And those are only really a couple people that, came after me personally, either while I was in or right after I left, right? I don't think it's really, any good to sit here and name who they are. But there are a couple people who were, OSA, ethics people who, were in charge of making sure people disconnected from me and did everything they could to make sure that, my bad influence on those people was severed through the disconnection policies. Now, here's what I can say about those people as far as my ability to forgive them goes, is I have not forgiven them. I bear them nothing but ill will at this time. But if they were to come out of Scientology, if they were to see the light, so to speak, see the damage and destruction that they've engaged in, if they were to do something that was to demonstrate that they saw that what they did was damaging and destructive, and they were to apologize to me, directly and personally, I would probably forgive them, right? I probably would. But until that day comes, they haven't shown any remorse. They haven't shown any reason to earn my forgiveness. So why would I, right? But like I said, I'm only talking about a couple people. In the general, world of Scientology, the public and the staff and the Sea Org members, I understand why they're in the position that they're in, why they believe the way they do, because I was there. And, and I'm no lily white person on all of this either. I did things that were damaging to people as well. So, and I have asked for, I have apologized when confronted directly on that, or, when I could, knew somebody that I had damaged and I reached out to them and apologized. So I'm only asking those people that I would, do that for, to do what I did, right? The general run of everybody who's in Scientology and that sort of thing, I don't really have anything against them anymore. For a while I did, about the Sea Org and staff members and stuff. I had some resentment built up towards a lot of those folks. But as I've come to educate and learn, more about the whole situation, destructive cults, undue influence, all that stuff, right? Brainwashing. You see how these people were conned in the same way I was, you were, and so, you just kind of go, okay, well, I can't just hate everybody, and there's no reason to, As far as why Scientology hasn't paid for what it's done to people's lives, I think in a way it has, and it still will. And here's what I mean by that. Scientology is a collective, it's a group of people. It's not, it in of itself can't really pay for much of anything. It's just an idea. L. Ron Hubbard died in a ditch. L. Ron Hubbard died a horrible, alone, hiding from the authorities up in Creston, California, going insane, right? The guy went nuts. And he was that way for a very long time. And he just got worse and worse as the years went on. That, in a way, is paying for his sins, I think in one way or another, there's a form of karma, or you reap what you sow. I think Hubbard eventually did that. I would not have wanted L. Ron Hubbard's life at all, despite the fact that the guy had millions of dollars and all of that. He was a pretty miserable person, and I have to think that the damage that he inflicted on other people throughout his life, as a result of what he was doing, his lying, narcissistic ways, and his megalomania, made his miserableness the way that it was, and drove him insane, and that's how he ended his life, right? So I think he did pay in a way for that. Like, what better comeuppance could he have had, And I don't know if David Miscavige is going to meet that kind of karma or not, but we can hope. This comes down, really looking at this question really in a hard-nosed way. It comes down to the fact that life ain't fair; it never was, and the world is not a just and true place. And so maybe David Miscavige won't ever pay for his criminal activities and the things that he has done. I'd like to think that he will, and I certainly hope that he will, but I don't know if that's a certainty or not, which comes down to then, what do we do about it, right? We who were victimized by this destructive cult, by L. Ron Hubbard's teachings, by David Miscavige's actions and words and orders. We move on. We find some kind of peace within ourselves and some kind of reconciliation with the fact that that's where a part of our life went, and we can't get it back. And so you can carry that burden like hauling a 18-wheeler behind you with a rope. You can carry that burden with you for the rest of your life, or you can kind of let it go. And I don't know what words to say to you that will allow you to let it go. I don't know. But conceptually, that's what I feel I've been doing, and so that's the advice that I would give to anybody else is, that anger and that, there comes a point where you have to let it go. And I know, despite what I've said in this answer earlier about still having, resentment and anger towards those couple people, I know eventually I'll let that go too, right? I really will. It's a lot more real to me now that will happen than it was, say, a year ago or 2 years ago or 3 years ago when it was really fresh, right? So I don't know if any of this is helpful or not, but I thought I would give a stab at throwing an answer at you on this, because I do understand, have been there, have done that, and still doing it, and that's really the best I've got for you. You let me know if that helped at all.